Hey guys, thanks for watching another one of my videos. I'm going to cover a different topic here today, and it's basically because I hear a lot of people basically down talking organic food. So one of the arguments that they use is that organic food also has pesticides, and a lot of people even go as far as arguing that organic farmers use more pesticides. It gets even worse. They say that they use more dangerous pesticides too. Okay, so I'm gonna cover this now. One of the main reasons I hear this come up is when people are advocating for GMOs. And while this video isn't particularly going over GMOs, it's comparing organic farming to conventional farming. All right? But obviously, GMO farming is the opposite of organic farming. So it's kind of conventional, it's just its own thing. So, because the GMO farmers, they say that they, due to GMOs, they are using less pesticides, the industry as a whole. But that's because the pesticides are built into the food. That's not good, because we're eating that food, or the animals are eating that food. But anyways, I've got this article I'm going to link to in the description. It seems pretty well balanced to me, and it's a 4-part series. It's pretty good, so you can check it out and read it if you like. But this is not a comprehensive report on it. So if there's other things that you want to add, whether it supports conventional farming or organic, let us know in the comments below. No trolls though, no just being crazy, but we can have an open discussion because hey, this is important. It's our future. Our food becomes us, and the topsoil is eroding. I mean, this is a really big issue we have going on. So let me go ahead and get started. I'm going to give you, off the top of my head, a few things that are in this post, and then I'll go over it in more detail and show you it. So there is a little bit of truth to the whole thing of organic farmers using more pesticides and more dangerous. So like a lot of these lies, what they do is they sprinkle in a little bit of truth and they just twist it, convolute it into a whole bunch of lies. And then, most people only listen to one side of the story, so people that support organic farmers, they listen to the non-GMO stuff and the pro-organic stuff. And on the other side of the fence, we have people who only listen to the other side. And so usually there's, we can't understand why the other side feels the way that they do. So I'm going to try to be fair and balanced in here. But again, add your comments, you guys. So the reason why, in a sense, some organic farmers use more pesticides is because they're different pesticides. See, organic farmers have like 25 pesticides to choose from, whereas conventional farmers have 900 to choose from. So it's totally different, right? And the organic pesticides are different than the synthetic ones. So the organic ones often will break down, they'll biodegrade much faster. So they'll have to reapply them or put them on in more heavy doses. But the toxic residue, the pesticide residue, is far less in organic. So it's not damaging the environment and it's not damaging our health. And that's the important part. So it doesn't matter so much how much is applied. What matters is how much is present when you eat it, or how much is in the environment causing all these other problems. So that's one of the things to consider. So as far as that's the argument of organic farmers using more pesticides, but what about them using pesticides that are more toxic? There's some truth to that in some cases, but generally that's not the way that it works. See, first you have to know that organic farmers a lot of them don't even use pesticides at all. Okay, so they can't be using more pesticides and pesticides that are more toxic. I grow organically, and I don't use any pesticides in my garden. Nothing, not even organic pesticides. All right. So, organic farmers, what they do is they try to create healthy plants. And a healthy plant, like a healthy human being, has a good immune system. And by being healthy, it's able to fend off pests and diseases. So that's the approach that organic farmers use. And conventional farmers, they just resort to pesticides. See, organic farmers, they are required to try to fix all their pest problems naturally without using a pesticide. It's only as a last resort that they're allowed to use a pesticide. So they have to report to whoever gives them their organic certification. They have to tell them, hey, this is our plan for the year. We've got to do this to keep our pests under control. And if that's not working, and only then can they say, hey, look, we've tried all the other natural routes, the non-pesticide routes, and we have to use this pesticide. And that's when an organic farmer can use an organic pesticide. Now, depending on where you live and stuff like that and what you're growing, organic farmers have less options, so sometimes they have to resort to a pesticide that isn't very good. And that's just to get us the food that we need to grow. Like a lot of times they use this pesticide that's used in bananas that are sold in like South America and Latin America, but it's not used in America. But if we buy our bananas from outside the country, we import them, maybe we can get that in the organic bananas. But that's because we probably shouldn't be growing those bananas anyway. Maybe at some point we won't be able to grow them anymore. I mean, they're just so susceptible to disease because they're so hybridized, they're so man-made. Like most of the foods that we have today, that's the problem, because we want things that are sweet. So they're bred in ways to make it sweet. So let's look at some of this post to see what I'm saying. All right. So again, this is a 4-part post, and the first thing that they point out is that herbicides are by far the biggest category of pesticides. There's pesticides, insecticides, fungicides. Pesticides is just the broad term for all of them. But since weed are the most common pests, herbicides are by far the most widely used class of pesticides. But according to this article, it says there are no economically viable organic herbicides used at any type of scale. So, since the number one pesticide used is herbicides, and there's no organic herbicides, how can organic farmers be using more pesticides? That doesn't make sense. Another thing that they point out is farm biodiversity. And it says, there's a 2005 meta-analysis that found that organic farms generally have 30% higher species richness and 50% higher abundance of organisms than conventional farms. And other studies since then have found similar effects. So what he's basically saying is, if organic farmers are using more pesticides and they're using pesticides that are more dangerous, why are the organic farms much more biodiverse? All right. And the next part I want to point out from this first part is really just anecdotal, so take it for what it's worth. But he has this group of farmers, which admittedly are organic farmers, and he asked them about their pesticide use. And basically, they all commented that use little to no pesticides. But then he followed up with other inspectors and health regulators and farm regulators, and asked them from their experience what was the case, and their response corroborated what the farmers in his group said that organic farmers use less pesticides. All right, now let's look at part 2. I kind of already went over a lot of what was covered on this page. For example, all of the organic pesticides are also available to conventional farmers, but conventional pesticides are available to organic farmers. And so, because of that reason, there's no way to specifically track how much pesticides the organic farmers are using, because a lot of the organic pesticides also are used on conventional farms. So a lot of the myths are also, they use that to confuse people and mislead people into thinking that the organic farmers are using way more pesticides than they're using, because a lot of the organic pesticides are being used by conventional farmers. All right. So, and this kind of goes over what I was saying about how the organic pesticides degrade faster, so they have to be reapplied, stuff like that. And they go over this graph. This is a graph that people use to, like I said, mislead people into thinking more organic pesticides are used. And it looks like a lot of these organic pesticides, I mean, they're non-toxic, but a lot of them are organic. But again, you can get the details. There's no reason for me to go over all the details. But I'm just giving you the rough idea here, so you can understand how people manipulate data, and so that way when you hear these arguments about the organic farmers using all these pesticides, you can get a better understanding of where the other side's coming from. So if you're in a debate or whatever, you want to know what you're talking about, because in order to change the world, we've got to change minds. We've got to be able to influence people. So we've got to be informed and make an educated opinion. And this is the insecticide that I was talking about with the bananas. They got the whole story there. But again, the synthetic pesticides are almost always much more harmful and used in much more abundance. Part 3 looks at the special cases of pest control in organic orchards and vineyards. So that gets into the rare cases when we have to use less than the best pesticides. It's just the world that we live in. And let's go ahead and look at part 4. I want to point out this paragraph. He says all pesticides used by all farmers on all types of farms are subject to the exactly the same EPA state and county rules and regulations. All organic approved pesticides are available to conventional farmers as well. One of the things that surprised me in researching the story was that I could not find a single organic approved pesticide that wasn't used in a significant way by conventional farmers somewhere. The vast bulk of organic approved pesticides sold are used on conventional farms. That's not surprising, but my expectation was that for all the talk of some of the mineral and horticultural oils being less effective and more expensive, there would be a list I could put together of products used exclusively on organic farms. I couldn't. And talking to a range of experts, there wasn't a commonly used organic pesticide that conventional farmers don't also find useful under the right circumstances. So that means, when you hear conventional farmers or people just arguing against organic pesticides and stuff like that, the argument doesn't hold water. If if you know one, let us know in the comments below. But the author of this article couldn't find one pesticide that the conventional farmers didn't use. So they can't say, that one's just garbage. It's less effective and it's more expensive. It's a waste. There's no purpose for it. Obviously, there's a purpose for it because they're also using it. Before I wrap this up and give you one more huge reason why organic farming is better, let me remind you to hit that subscribe button. And if you're already subscribed, make sure to hit that bell icon. That way you get notified when I produce new videos. I lost my entire YouTube channel by covering information that they don't want people to know about. So I'm rebuilding a new fan base. So I appreciate every subscriber from the bottom of my heart. So, a quick Google search for organic farmers use more pesticides. You can read both sides of the story, but I just wanted to kind of point out some things that you'll run into. I've already dispelled a lot of the myths, but like for example, this one right here at the top, they talk about how organic farmers apply Bt toxin, which is just a protein from soil bacteria. The reason they call the organic farmers hypocrites because the GMO corn, Bt corn as it's known, they grow it with this Bt toxin inside the corn. And that's one of the things we don't like about GMOs. But organic farmers spray the same pesticide on plants. But the thing is when you spray it, as a foliar spray, it breaks down. It degrades really quickly and breaks down so that way when you eat the corn, there is no residue left. You're not eating it. But when you grow it inside the corn, as is done with the GMO Bt corn, it's still there. When you cook it, when you eat it, you're eating it. And they want to tell you that it's not harmful, but it is. There's all kinds of gastrointestinal problems that people get. That's another topic for another day, but I just wanted to kind of go over these myths, and they try to act like it's the same thing, whether it's in the corn or you spray it. No, what matters is what you're getting in your body, all right? How much harm it's doing by eating this food product. So let me give you one last reason and as a bonus for anyone who's stayed through this entire video. This is going to be another big bonus, and very few people know this. And what's recently been found is salvesterols, salvesterols, are basically these substances inside of plants that act as a plant's immune system. At the very beginning of the video, I explained how organic farmers they build plants' natural defense systems, and salvesterols is a major one that's only recently been discovered. And they build it to fight pests and fungus and stuff like that. So if you're using pesticides and fungicides, then the plant doesn't have to build its own defenses to survive out there in this monoculture world that we create our food in. So that means organic food is going to be much higher in these salvesterols than conventional, and that's one of the biggest reasons to buy organic food or organic produce. And this isn't talked about much because it's brand new, and I'm sure that there are a lot of other things that haven't been discovered yet. Of course, we need to get back to nature and work with nature, get away from the monoculture, get away from the synthetic pesticides and synthetic fertilizers. I haven't even touched on fertilizers yet, but instead of because I guess it's not part of the talk, but instead of just using synthetic fertilizers that just have NPK, by using organic fertilizers such as compost and rock dust and stuff like that, you can get much more minerals into the soil. And more minerals in the soil means more minerals in the plant, which means more minerals in you when you eat it. If the plants have an immune system, you take on the properties from those plants, and it helps your immune system. So don't let these people trick you into thinking that organic food is no different and maybe can even be worse than conventional food, because it's a lie. Yes, organic is more expensive, but we need to fix that. If you look at the farm subsidies, you look at what crops are subsidized, they're GMO crops. There are these large farmers that are getting these GMO crops. And who's growing? What we need is a bunch of small farmers. So look into Joel Salatin. He's the farmer that was featured in several documentaries, starting with Food Inc. is probably what he's best known for. And he's got his own practice that he doesn't use he doesn't buy any fertilizers. And he's got a unique way of farming, and that's the direction where we need to be going, is working with nature, and nature will reward us, and it will punish us for trying to outsmart it. Nature's ever so intelligent, and we need to work with nature in order to be at one with nature so we can die naturally, not die from the sins against nature that we've been doing our entire life, because we are listening to this handful of agricultural companies that largely get their money from the government subsidies because they lobby the government, and people like Michael Taylor go back and forth from the regulatory agencies and the companies that they're supposed to be regulating. Gotta follow the money. You see the money trail, you see this is a big scam. We need to get away from these big giant agricultural companies and get back to the small farmers, the local farmers. Instead of getting food from across the country, in a different country, out of season, we need to be getting food that's in season, locally, that's not shipped all over the place, and that's picked freshly that day. The fresher, the better. If you can get food that was picked fresh that day, they can actually serve you food that actually naturally ripened. If food has to travel across the country or into another country, how can they pick it when it's perfectly ripe? By the time you get it home, it's going to be not good anymore. So that's why there's so many different problems with the agricultural system. I'm going off on a rant here. This is like the bonus for anyone that sticks around for this long. You get to hear this rant. And thank you for listening. Thank you for caring enough about the future of our planet, our soil, our health, our children's health, to listen to this, because we do need to find solutions. And right now there's big money that don't want small farmers in your neighborhood providing your food, because they want to patent their food and sell it. Monsanto, not just Monsanto, but other companies, but mainly Monsanto, they're coming out with all kinds of different foods that they're wanting to genetically modify. Not just foods either, salmon and mosquitoes, all these different things. Creatures, this is getting crazy. We are definitely opening up Pandora's box, and we don't need to. We can grow high quality food in a high amount. The quantity of food can be produced that we need to feed the world. And that's one of Joel Salatin's whole points, is that we can feed the world using his method. His methods of farming produces way more food per acre, 5 times as much than other people in his area. So it's just a matter of time of us adopting those methods. But if you look at the people who are in the industry, the directions, the trends that, this is where this is all going, it's going to, like everything else, all these other industries where we used to have dozens of media outlets, now we have 5 or 6. We used to have all these different mom and pop shops. Now we have a handful. Everything's being franchised and becoming, way more centralized. And in some cases, that's not so bad. But when it comes to our food is very important, because certain things start dying within the plant shortly after you pick it. And, when you pick foods at its prime ripeness, basically, when it's the perfect time to pick it, it tastes better and it's better for you. It's the nutritional profile changes from the time of seed to sprout and to plant. And when you pick the food at its peak ripeness, you get rewarded by nature with flavor, with nutrition. But big companies can't do this and pick it and get it everywhere out in the country to everyone. It just doesn't work like that. So we have to think global and act local. So I hope you got a lot out of this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know what you would like for me to talk about, explain any questions that you have. Let's get some conversation going. Let's all put our brains together and work together, because together we can change the world. One video at a time. I'm doing my best. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.